千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we all ready ourselves for the sacred process in the Tao with one another. That said, what Lao Tzu advocates remains important. We do have to expand our perception to see all directions, which means to understand multiple perspectives. There is a story to illustrate this idea, and it comes from the life of Confucius. Let me share the story with everyone. The story is called Rush to Judgment. During the warring stage period, Confucius and his disciples went on the road to visit the various kings and warlords. What they were hoping to do was to influence these kings and warlords toward peace, because it was a time of widespread chaos. In their travels, sometimes they would encounter armies on the march, sometimes even ongoing battles, and therefore they would need to wait until it was safe to hit the road again. On one such occasion, Confucius and his students, they found themselves stuck in one place for 7 days. Their food quickly ran out. Everybody was hungry. What to do? Well, one of the disciples, Confucius' senior disciple, Yan Hui, he ventured out into a dangerous situation where fighting was still continuous. He managed to evade danger and bring back some rice. So he set up a large pot in their camp, and he began cooking immediately. He knew how hungry everybody was. While the rice was being cooked, another disciple caught sight of Yan Hui eating some rice from the pot. So right away, he thought Yan Hui must be sneaking a bite due to hunger. This was actually a serious transgression, because all the disciples follow Confucius in holding themselves to the highest standard of propriety and proper behavior. So the transgression was pretty serious, but this other disciple decided to not confront Yan Hui. Instead, he went to see Confucius to report this. So this disciple greeted Confucius and he asked, "Master, when honorable individuals experience poverty, can they let that poverty change their ethics?" Confucius was emphatic and he said, "No. If they let their ethics be changed by external factors, then how can they refer to themselves as honorable individuals?" Then the disciple said, "Well, what about Yan Hui? Does the principle apply to him?" And Confucius said, "Of course. The principle applies to everybody, no exception. So this was the confirmation the disciple wanted to hear. He proceeded to report on what he had seen to Confucius. Confucius said, I have long trusted Yan Hui's integrity. I do hear what you're saying, but I cannot suspect him solely on that basis. Perhaps, maybe, there is some reason behind it all. Say no more. I shall ask him myself. So Confucius summoned Yan Hui and said to him, Yan Hui, I had a dream of my ancestors. I think they may have come to protect us in our time of need. So when you are done with the cooking of the rice, please perform an offering ritual with the rice before we eat it. So this request made Yan Hui look a bit worried. He replied, Master, we cannot use that rice for the ritual. While cooking, I saw a bit of ash fall into the rice. I scooped up the ash and the rice it touched, intending to discard it. Then it occurred to me this would actually be a waste of edible food, so I ate it. Since I did consume a bit of the rice, it would be disrespectful for us to offer it in a ritual. You are right, Confucius agreed. If I were in your position, I would have eaten the tainted rice as well. So upon this, Yan Hui went back to the kitchen to finish cooking. Confucius turned to the other disciples present, and he said to them, as you can see, the trust I have for Yan Hui is not something that had to wait until today to be proven. The end. So let me tie this story together with the message from Lao Tzu. Here's the Tao. The initial accusation from the disciple against Yan Hui represents one perspective, one direction out of four. And Confucius knew this was insufficient for clarity on the truth. Notice that Confucius did not react with shock, anger, or outrage upon hearing this transgression. It was perfectly plausible that Yan Hui had actually done that, sneaked in a bite, because they were all starving at the time. But Confucius did not jump to that conclusion because he knew things might not be what they seemed. So he waited until he had more information or more directions that he could see or more perspectives that he could incorporate. Now, you and I, we have all seen people who make decisions without this wisdom. Perhaps back in a time when you were falsely accused of something, you didn't get a chance to explain anything. You were just automatically assumed to be guilty. Or perhaps this happened to someone else. We've all seen this particular scenario. And in everyday life, we can also witness such a scenario. For instance, a customer may complain to the manager about an employee at an establishment, maybe a cafe, maybe a store. Upon hearing the complaint, the manager sides with the customer right away to reprimand the employee, overlooking the possibility that the customer may be making a completely unreasonable demand. In a case like that, the saying that the customer is always right may not apply. So this highlights the importance of sampling multiple perspectives. In the Tao, it is expressed as understand clearly all directions. All directions is more than one perspective. Reason why it's important is because different perspectives, different angles will allow you to look beyond the surface level. Use the example of a movie set to see what Lao Tzu and Confucius were getting at. The movie sets look great from one angle, the angle where the camera is positioned. It has to look good for that, and then the actors in front of the background can perform. But if you walk around the movie set, it doesn't take long for you to get a different angle where you can see the flimsy facade being propped up. A different angle allows you to look beyond the surface appearance, to see the true reality, and be able to see for yourself that the set is without substance, only appearance. So this applies to everything, even sources of information like the news. And this is where I talk about applying this to our lives. We want to refrain from immediately jumping to conclusions, no matter what it is. Today, falsehoods can be repeated and amplified by the power of the internet to mislead people, including ourselves. It's a real problem, and it doesn't seem like there's a solution in sight. And even when we're not talking about sources of news, the internet, sources of information, it could just be everyday conversations going on. We still want to guard against rumors and gossips and hearsay. We hear all kinds of stuff every day. Now, the problem with rumors, gossip, and hearsay is that from observation, we know they tend to be unhelpful. There is simply too much speculation, innuendo, and exaggeration in what people pass around. When you take a step back and observe with detachment, you know this is the case. And lastly, keep in mind that emotions can cloud one's judgment. So there are quite a few who are adept at using emotions to manipulate you. And the easiest example that comes to mind is outrage. When a news outlet figures out a way to get people mad about something, even a problem that's been distorted out of proportion, it's a way to keep ratings up. So we don't want to fall into that particular illusion. And we have to go back to what Lao Tzu says. In understanding clearly all directions, can one be without intellectuality? Can we go beyond logic to arrive at wisdom, to know truth separated from falsehoods? So the story, Rush to Judgment, comes from the Tao of Wisdom. You'll find that in greater detail, more discussions about Confucius' actions in that book. If you haven't seen it yet, I would like to recommend it to you. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.